to Power Conversations podcast by What's Your Superpower TV. This podcast features conversations of overcoming by faith and pushing through to fulfill a purpose-driven life. This podcast is hosted by CEO and best-selling author Nadia Francois. Welcome to the broadcast. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Power Conversations Podcast Summer Book Tour, the Juneteenth edition. Power Conversations is a division of What's Your Superpower Digital Media, a kingdom empowerment brand that offers visibility opportunities to entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, and community leaders. Learn more at www.whatsuperpower.com. Today we have joining us author Shana Gourdine.
Hey.
Queen, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing wonderful. I'm going to just read a little bit of your bio. And so, after encountering the ugly face of domestic violence and developing 4 different health conditions, Shana's life took a new turn, but she couldn't give this a room to ruin her life. So she embarked on a journey to elevate her self-esteem and uplift people who were going through such issues. Consequently, Shana writes relatable books from her experience to help individuals learn to love themselves again after going through disappointments, trauma, and disability. Moreover, Shana fits in several other shoes as a poet, motivational speaker, podcast host, spoken word artist, self-love life coach, advocate for domestic violence awareness, and chronic illnesses. Shana has published several titles and co-authored several others in a writing journey that spans over 3 years. Welcome, Miss Shana. I know you're not used to me reading bios, but we doing it a little different today.
It's all right.
Yes. So I know I spoke a little bit on how or what you write about, but what began your writing journey?
Well, I've actually been writing poetry since I've been 12. So I've just been into using my words as a way of power. And, a lot of times when I was in high school, I was one of the shy girls, so I didn't talk. So I used my word, I use poetry as therapy. Yeah. So as that was, going through that process, I wanted to be an author then. And, eventually as I went through my trauma, it was my way of using my therapy. So it's like, why not take this powerful words that I've told myself to make me heal and forgive and go into a better state of mind after trauma? Why not take it to inspire others to learn how to forgive and learn that there's life and love after trauma?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you have several titles. Which ones will we hear about tonight?
Oh, Lord. We will definitely probably talk about all the 3 tops, which is The Mask Behind the Mask, Unveil the Pieces, and, my new children's book, The Power in Me.
All right. Well, let's start with the Mask series.
Yes, absolutely.
Come on and tell us about those wonderful publications.
Yes, the very first one, The Mask Behind the Mask, is a book of poetry and spoken words that I put together for people to love all their imperfections despite of what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Thus, with that book, that was when I was dealing with a lot of trauma. So a lot of that is learning to teach people that, they have to take their power back. They have to love who they are, know their self-worth and, be transparent to understand you went through something. And, these are the things that, we have to stay in the test to and be vulnerable to understand that we played a part in. So that book was to teach people that they had a mask on and they were dealing with things in their life and, that to empower them that they can do better.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's so spoken word. Now what's next?
Now the second one was called Unveil the Pieces of a Broken Mask, which it has poetry and spoken words in it, but it also had questions. It actually had part of my story. At the beginning, I started off talking about, how I got in the situations that I got into. So I told briefly of my story, but then I also started talking about the pieces that you can take off, like your insecurity, about baggage, asking people questions about their own mass and, how do they feel about their relationships. So I kind of put the life coach hat on and, you know, got a little deeper into things. It's kind of more like a self-help book. So whereas you can kind of take the poetry, but then ask yourself questions about the things you're dealing with. And then I also put affirmations in it, and I also gave them space to write in the back where it's like a journal. So it's basically to help you take the pieces off as you go through life.
Love it, love it. And then you said you have a children's book, the new
Yes.
book. Tell
Yes.
us all about it.
The children's book, The Power in Me, it was a way to inspire children that they can dream big. I have two on my own, so why not take the same thing that I tell my kids on a daily and put in a book to help empower the future generation that's behind us, the legacies that we're leaving. So many times they go through their own things in school, society, peer pressure, bullying, depression, suicidal. Why not teach them, well, regardless of the environment they come from, regardless of the people that they deal with or things that happen, that they still can dream big. And they gotta work for it though. Like, in this book, I also gave them the tools to understand that they can be anything they want, irregardless. And so I decided to use my kids as characters, as talking to the kids like they were at school. In the pictures, you'll see like the kids talking, and it's my daughters them as the characters, and I also made them my co-author. So at the age of 10 and 11, I have made them young entrepreneurs already.
Absolutely. Yay. That's so good. I love it. I love it. So, The Power in Me is the kids' book. Unveiling the Broken Pieces of the Mask is the spoken word book,
Mhm.
right?
It's the spoken word self-help book.
The spoken word self help. And then
The
the
mass
first
behind the
one,
mask.
the mask behind the mask. All right. I love this. This queen, y'all, is so talented. She's a poet, and she has created her own podcast and things like that. So make sure that you connect with her, make sure that you get these books. This life coaching she's doing is amazing, so make sure you reach out. But let's talk a little bit more about your authorship. So in writing all of these books, what is your writing motivation?
My motivation is, you know, I've actually, you can say, I dedicated myself to helping empowering people. Elevation, like to be able to see people come to the other side of self-love, self-worth, and understanding self-knowledge, and being able to hear them say, you know what, I'm in a better place. So
Yeah.
my motivation is to help inspire people to be a better version of themselves.
Awesome, awesome. And what I know, a lot of times when we're going through things, writing helps come out of those dark places and those stuck places. How is it the same for you?
Yeah, it's therapeutic, especially when you're having a bad day or you're just dealing with things. I write more than I talk about it. Like I'll have a conversation, but I'm more vulnerable in writing than I am in
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, yeah. Me too. I think I'm not really long-winded in talking, but if I write it, it's coming out. And
Yes.
then so are those emotions.
Right.
So, who is your target audience when you're writing?
You know, a lot of times it's about people that's trying to understand that they need to find a peace. Is more, I think, to be honest, as I did this for the last 3 years, I think I am more geared to people that's dealt with some type of trauma, because that's where I've been, and to be able to inspire them to be better and not to be stagnant, and to, or to people that's trying to find their courage and their bravery, because a lot of times we find ourselves stuck because we don't we're fearing what's on the other side. Some of us are afraid of success.
Yeah.
So, I just feel my target artist is either people that's dealing with self love or trauma.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, as a writer, do you like to read?
I do.
Who is your favorite author?
If I had to pick a favorite author, I used to read Eric Jerome Dickey books, and I used to read Zane, and the I think the other author I used to read was Morris. Oh, I can't remember the name, but I used to, it was my favorite book was God Don't Like Ugly, God Still Don't Like Ugly, and it was another part, so it was like 3 steps. But oh yeah, and A Day Late and a Dollar Short was my other book.
Good, good, good. So, um, one last question, and then I'm gonna allow you to give your final thoughts in your contact or how we buy these books, right?
Right.
So, my last question, and I know you've kind of touched on it a little bit, but what impact are you trying to make with your work?
My impact is to inspire people to be the true self. Like a lot of times we have so much things that we are uncomfortable with, so whereas we try to put the mask on to cover it up. So my impact is to teach people that it's okay to say I'm not okay, and it's okay to not be okay, but don't be afraid to do something about it. Don't be afraid to sit in that mess and know the true self. Because so many times when you're putting an image up or when you're faking to be something else and you're really unhappy, then it just leads into the rest of the life of still being unhappy. I want people to be happy. I want them to be able to live. You only get one life.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. So now it is time for you to give your final thoughts and how do we buy the books? And if there's anything else you want to mention, help yourself.
Absolutely. My final thought is to always remember there's faith over fear. Don't allow your fear be the reason why you don't succeed. Don't allow your fear be the reason why you don't step into the unknown. It's okay to get uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is the perfect place to be because then you know you're not settling. So always remember there's faith over fear. How you contact me, you can reach me on my website at www.theladybehindthemask.com. You can always find me on Facebook as Juanita Mass. You can find me on Instagram as the Lady Behind the Mask 22 and on TikTok as Shana Gourdine author and on Twitter as Juanita underscore Gourdine on Twitter. And definitely please contact me for my podcast, which is called The Power in Your Voice, where I teach you how to have a voice and don't be silent.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Queen, so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. I have added your website in the comments. Guys, get in touch with this Queen. Get a copy of these books, amazing books to help you transform in self love, in trauma, to help you come out of that. Thank you so much to everyone that tuned in. We had a good bit of comments coming in. Thank you all for joining us and have a great night.